Hello, my dear Franken friends, and welcome to Spookyou, your one-stop shop for all things ghastly and ghoulish. I'm your host, Barnabas Vixen. How horrible of you to join us. Curl up, invite your friends, and by all means, make sure those lights are out. That way it's harder to tell what may or may not be lurking around you. There's nothing like a good mystery, am I right? Tonight will feature a singular tale of devilish design curated by those wicked weavers of woe. And without further ado, allow me to pass the reins on over to our vivacious voiceover virtuoso Trey Falco for tonight's sinister story. Please keep all limbs and side covers at all times. We wouldn't want anything to go missing now, would we?
I woke up to an emergency alert at 6 a.m. this morning on my phone. Checking my phone, the alert read, "Go indoors immediately and remain inside. Await further instructions." After living here for almost 10 years, I've only ever received a handful of emergency alerts, which all presented themselves as tests for the emergency alert system. Generally, I live my life pretty freely and don't take life too seriously, but unfortunately for me, this means that I'm not the type of person who prepares for the worst to happen, which I now realize is what I should have been doing. I thought to myself, better safe than sorry, so after getting out of bed, I immediately headed downstairs and checked that both the front and back doors were locked and deadbolted. I live alone and always lock my doors at night, but I needed to verify this simply for my sanity's sake, even if I didn't know exactly what was going on. I live in a decently sized 2-story house that I've worked my ass off to make a reality, and the windows downstairs all have solid security screens on them, meaning there was no need for me to check the locks on those. After securing the house, I went back upstairs to my bedroom and tried to make a couple of calls. Initially, I called my boss, and I couldn't just expect to get the day off work without explaining the situation, if there even was a situation. The phone rang for some time before directing me to her voicemail system. I left a message explaining the emergency alert I received and told her to call me back when she gets the chance so we can discuss what's happened. I tried calling my parents, but was again sent straight to their voicemail system. I think at this point was when I was starting to get worried. My parents live almost 2 hours away from me and were always awake at the ass crack of dawn. They never left the house before 8 a.m., but I still tried to convince myself they were busy with something else. So again, I left a message for them to get back to me when they could. My phone dinged. A message from one of my work colleagues, John. He was asking whether I had received the emergency alert too and if I knew anything about why it had sent out. I replied immediately and told him that I didn't know any more than he did, but I'd let him know if I found anything out. Besides, I needed to calm down now. There was no use worrying over something yet that I didn't even know about. I decided to shower first before having a quick breakfast and turning on the television to get my mind off of whatever could be going on. At this point, it was about 7:30 a.m., the time I would usually be leaving for work. Now, I'm not one to purposely ignore warning signs, so I'd rather get an angry text from my boss than get caught up in whatever caused the emergency alert to be sent in the first place. When I turned the television on, the same emergency alert sound invaded my ears. The volume was so high from the music I was listening to last night that I had to dive for the remote to turn it down. And the same words that my phone woke me up to were the only words on the screen. Go indoors immediately and remain inside. Await further instructions. Now, I was extremely worried. I was realizing that this couldn't just be an accident or a test. I'd never seen an emergency warning like this, let alone it being presented on every channel I flicked through. Without any additional information, there was no way for me to know what was going on or how to prepare for it. And after turning the volume from the television all the way down to get a break from the blaring alert sound, I realized just how quiet it was outside. I mean, there was no cars commuting, birds chirping, neighbors chatting, or airplanes flying overhead. Nothing. I never realized how accustomed I had become to these background sounds, and this lack of background sound made me feel incredibly uneasy, like I could sense something was wrong regardless of the emergency alerts. Now, all of my blinds were still shut, so I hadn't had a chance or even thought about looking outside until this point. There wasn't any specific instructions regarding looking outside anyway, so I didn't really think anything of it, but I thought it would be safest to look outside my bedroom window, which leads out to a small balcony through a sliding glass door. I went into my room and pulled on the string that rotates the vertical blinds, and immediately my room flooded with natural light and the warmth of the sun hit me. I've always loved the warmth of direct sunlight, so I made sure my window was faced towards the sunrise and subsequently towards the street when I had the house built. However, after opening the blinds, what I saw made me immediately drop to the floor out of sight from the street.
Pardon my ill-timed interruption of this terrible tale, but I've been informed by the powers that be that our narrator has been sucked into a wormhole. While our Neutronian technicians work on fishing him out, quite literally bait and all, I'd like to take a moment to tell you about one of our sponsors, Katarina's Potion Emporium. Whether you're brewing up a powerful love potion to ensnare that special someone, or a potent drought of imminent death, you'll find all the ingredients your shriveled up little heart desires. Don't fancy yourself an apothecary? No worries! Katarina has lined the shelves with her very own concoctions, at affordable rates. And right now, if you scream "Spookyou" into the cold night air around midnight, you'll receive Katarina's deepest thanks with your first purchase. Hurry now, this deal won't last long. Now I've been told that our narrator is back behind the mic and, mostly, no worse for wear, we return you to your story already in progress.
I barely got a glimpse of them, but they looked extremely hostile. These creatures were nothing like any animal I've ever seen and were gathered in a circle in front of the house across from mine. It looked like there were about 8 of them. They were all gaunt and tall and appeared as though they were wearing a suit of skin that was far too tight for their body. Their bones seemed to be almost protruding from their skin. They had no facial features besides a pair of dark, sunken eyes that appeared completely white in contrast with their extremely dark skin. These things were far from human, but were standing on 2 legs like us. I'm glad they didn't see me. If they can see at all, that is. I don't think I'd be writing this right now if they had seen me. After dropping to the floor, I immediately closed the blinds again, and I've never had a panic attack before now, but now realizing the actual danger I was in, it sure felt like I was going through something similar. Nothing that was going on was normal. Without confidence, I dialed the emergency telephone number on my phone. Immediately, a recorded message sounded through the speaker. Go indoors immediately and remain inside. Await further instructions. This message pierced my ears and continued looping until I ended the call. A couple of hours passed by while I went through my entire phone list trying to get into contact with anyone I possibly could. Now even John wouldn't respond. Not a single person answered their phone or responded to the frantic voicemails I left. At the moment, I was safe in my house, but how long would that last? I didn't even know what these creatures were, let alone what they were capable of. I just knew that they weren't here to make friends. Eventually, I decided to make my way downstairs and take stock of the food that I had. I don't know how long I'll have to wait these creatures out, but the power is still working at the moment, so everything in the fridge and freezer is still okay. The water is still running, obviously, since I was able to take a shower, but again, I don't know how long that will last. I decided to fill up the bathtub in the downstairs bathroom in case the water stops running anytime soon, so I'll have at least 150 liters of drinkable water in that case. Curiosity got the better of me. After taking stock of the food and filling the tub, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was already going a little mad. I mean, just yesterday, everything had been completely fine, and now I couldn't get in touch with a single person, and there were creatures out on the street that I'd never seen before. I needed to look again. I needed to know that what I saw was real, and not something that I had made up in my head. This all felt like a weird dream I needed to wake up from, but but I knew this was real. I went back upstairs to my bedroom and peeked through the blinds. Surprisingly, the creatures were no longer where I'd seen them earlier. And I then noticed the door to the house across the street looked to have been scratched through. There were long scratch marks along the length of the wooden door and a large hole in the center. They'd broken their way into that house, but they were no longer anywhere to be seen. That is, until I noticed something staring straight back at me through the upstairs window of that same house. The deep, sunken eyes I stared into seemed like they'd steal the soul from my body if I looked for too long. And after my brain recognized what I was staring at, I leapt backwards away from the blinds. That thing had no doubt seen me, and I paced back and forth thinking of what I should do at this point when I heard a horrendous sound coming from downstairs. I quietly made my way down the stairs and towards the sound. The sound pierced my ears. It sounded like something sharp being dragged across metal, and that's when I realized that they were trying to get inside. The metal security screen door I had installed was being barraged by them. I started moving the bookcases I had by the entrance against the front door. Now the sun was setting, and they were mercilessly going at it. There was no way I could fend off these things barehanded. And that's when I remembered the gift that my dad had given me this year for my 25th birthday. I was never really into guns and never really had a need to use one, but at a time like this, it was quite necessary if it had to come to that. So I ran back upstairs and into the guest room where I'd stored everything that was gifted to me for my birthday this year. The pistol was still in its case, and I quickly removed it and loaded it with ammunition that my dad had shown me how to use. I've never fired a gun, so this still remains a last resort. Now I'm sitting in my room writing this. The pistol is sitting on my bedside table, and I can still hear those creatures downstairs. I don't know exactly what I should do. Should I run? Should I fight? If you're reading this, please respond.
Welcome back, my darling deviants. Well, tell me, did you enjoy that twisted tale? Of course you did. I knew you had that air about you, that hunger for the horrific and the macabre. So, did we spook you? If not, then file a complaint with our complaint department detailing all accounts of non-spookiness you found in this video, and we'll get back to you in 2 to 3 millennia. Give or take a business eon or two. However, if you've enjoyed what you've just heard this evening, then make sure you leave a like on this video and annihilate that subscribe button. Such a small act of obedience is exactly what we need to put the food on the table around here. There's only so many days we can have refried kidney and toe jam hash before I'm absolutely sick of it. Spoiler alert, that ship sailed long ago. Now, I must bid you adieu. I've many things to take care of, and this outro is eating into my day off. Run along now. Have no fear, we'll be here every Tuesday and Thursday to bring you another terrible tale. Go forth, my ghastly gang, and stay spooky.